Welcome. We are now approaching day 8, and y'all probably wondering, Lito, what is next? What are we going to learn next, right? So, in today's lesson, we are going to be talking about Fibonacci. All right, y'all know, y'all been following me for a while. You already know Fibs is my go-to. Fibs like my baby. I use Fibs pretty much for everything, right? So, few things that we have to understand about Fibonacci, right? Fibonacci goes hand in hand with market structure. So, what that means is that since it goes hand in hand, you cannot have Fibonacci without having market structure, right? So anytime you have a high and you have a low, that is when you pretty much can draw your fib structure. So I'll give some examples here in a minute. But like I said, it goes hand in hand without market structure. With market structure. So if your market structure is off, then your fibs will be off as well, right? So that's one thing to understand. If you do not have your market structure right, what I mean by that, so like let's just say you in a downtrend and then you get a pullback like this. If you just draw a fib on here and you like, all right, I'm gonna draw this fib. Let me fix this. I'm gonna draw this fib like such and catch the pullback and think it's gonna go here. It's not. It's literally gonna do this shit and hit your stop loss, right? So it's important to understand the correct market structure, because ultimately your fib should be like this, point A to point B, see how far this retrace, and then catch the continuation to the downside to hit TP, right? That is one of the main things I see a lot of people do wrong inside of Fibonacci. So like I said, I want you guys to understand your market structure got to be a point. If you did not watch the market structure video, I think it was day 2 or day 3. If you did not watch that video, you need to click off of this video, go watch that first, and then watch Fibonacci. Otherwise, you have the possibility of drawing your fibs wrong, right? Now, if you can see here, my Fibonacci, if I click the style, these are pretty much my settings, right? Keep it plain and simple. You can screenshot, pause the video, whatever the case may be, right? So, few main things when drawing Fibonacci. You always want to start from a low point. You always want to start from a high point, depending on if you are in an uptrend or a downtrend. So, if I'm in an uptrend, like such, I will always start from the lowest point, and I will drag my Fibonacci to the highest point. So, if I had to put a fib on here, let's just redraw it. I will start from this low, drag it up to this high. And then I want to see how far price is pretty much going to retrace. Is it going to retrace to 23? Is it going to retrace to 38, 50, 61.8, 78.6, 88.6, or even the 100, right? Now, of course, depending on this fib level retracement, that's giving us an indication on, where price is about to potentially head next, right? Now, of course, I described a lot of this stuff, more in detail inside of my Blueprint Trading Academy and with my one-on-one students. But overall, just to keep things simple inside of this trading camp, this pretty much what you're looking for is seeing how far price retrace, right? Now, when you're looking at this retrace, one thing that you want to focus on, be mindful of, is you never enter a position just because price retraced to your favorite level. For example, just because price hit the 61.8 doesn't mean that you blindly enter there. That, ladies and gents, is what you call gambling. If you just enter just because price hit 61.8, and you haven't had confirmations to even get in that trade, you about to go on some drawdown, or you're about to get your stop loss hit, just because like you entering off of the 61.8 is not like, if you enter every single time off the 61.8, that's not efficient, right? Like that's not a strategy. Like that's actually like bullshit, right? So you got to make sure that you have your entry confirmations at this level. Now, of course, entries, we'll talk about that here in the upcoming days of the boot camp. But that's something that, like if you want to really learn how I enter the market step by step, that's something that you can apply for inside of the description. Join my wait list to join my one-on-one mentorship, right? Now, be mindful, like I said, you never just enter on a 61.8 just because it's there. You never just enter on 38, you never just enter 50%, so forth and so on, right? So now let me give you guys some examples of actual Fibonacci, right? Now, I use Fibonacci's on all my structures. So my smaller time frame minor structures to find the quick in and out moves, and also my daily time frame structures or my 4-hour structures, just to get a feel for like what's the overall direction of price, right? So we can see here this uptrend structure. Now, like I mentioned, we always draw it from a low to a high point here. So point A to point B, and we drag it across. This was a 50% retracement, and then we hit negative 27 TP. Even though we hit negative 61.8 TP as well, we still are pretty much, our target based off of this retracement was only negative 27 take profit, right? So that was something that we could take advantage of, but just by understanding, of course, the 3 phases that we talked about. So we have an impulse, then we have this correction, and then we have this continuation, right? So you as a trader, it's just your job to understand how far is this going to pull back before it starts going into my intended direction, so I can get in and capture the continuation. Just like we talked about in the beginning of the class or beginning of the trading camp. So let's draw this out. I see money. Boom. That's the slogan. So we got our impulse, our correction, get money, right? Same thing here. Impulse, correction, get money here, right? Now, like I said, this applies on all of the time frames. So no matter the time frame, if I go to the 5-minute time frame, same concept. If I draw a point A to point B, like I mentioned before, you gotta understand the structures that you are in. If you just drawing fibs without understanding the structure, then you're gonna get clapped, right? So the structure here was, this was in the uptrend, forming higher highs and higher low points all throughout this area. So my job as a trader was to identify, okay, here we had a breaker structure. This was the previous low. We created a new high. Price began to pull back and correct itself. Draw that point A. So like in a live market, it will look like this. Point A to point B. See how far price is going to retrace before it gives me my entry confirmations, right? Now, like I talked about, we're going to talk about entries later on in the course and so forth and so on, right? Now, here, like I said, this is simply a break and a retest. This was a 50% retracement. Very simple. Very simple fib, hit, take profit. So in this case, your trade would have been this, and you would have bagged 130 points or 130 pips easily on gold, just like that, right? So it's the same. Like I said, no matter the time frame, if you want a downtrend, you will draw it from the high to the low. So like here, we are forming lower lows and lower high points all throughout this area. So we can draw our fib from our point A, which is our highest point, to our point B. See how far price retraces to. This one hit 61.8. For our target is negative 61.8. Boom. Impulse, correction, continuation. Get money. Very simple. So that's pretty much what I only use the fibs for. I don't try to complicate it. Always here, I'll give you guys, when I'm looking for my take profits, I forgot to mention that. My take profits are pretty self-explanatory. My TP1 will always be 0. TP2 will be negative 27. And TP3 will be negative 61.8. That is how I use the fibs. The reason why I use the 0 as the TP1 is because this is the previous level of resistance, so you don't know if this is going to pull back further before going to your take profit. So I always like to at least secure some profits at TP1, and that's just my personal preference. But the overall projections based off of the Fibonacci is negative 27 and negative 61.8, right? So you can use whichever, you can use this as TP1 and this as TP2 if you like, but like I said, my personal preference is using TP1, TP2, TP3 based off of 0, negative 27, and negative 61.8, right? So like I said, make sure that your structure is intact. Not going super in depth into this. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. Of course, I still gotta save, some things for my blueprint students and stuff, but it's like this is the main concept. Like, if you understand just structure is really the answer to all y'all questions, right? Your structure's on point, you always can draw fibs within fibs. So with that being said, let me know in the comment section if y'all do have any questions about the Fibonacci. That way I can go ahead and answer you guys' questions inside of the chat. And make sure that you guys are smashing that like button. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button. I definitely appreciate all the feedback that you guys have been giving. You've been in the comment sections killing it. I've been seeing a lot of people, like literally we had a guy, he just we only on day 7, day 8, and he literally had 3 withdrawals just from watching these videos, right? So it's like, y'all can take everything that I'm giving y'all and implement it into y'all strategy, right? So just make sure that you implemented everything. Don't just watch these videos. Like, don't be the person that just watch and never take action, right? So with that being said, I will see you all in the next trading day. We got, like I said, I think today's day 8, whatever the case may be. So I'll see y'all for day 9 if that's what today is. If today's day 7, then I'll see y'all for day 8. Y'all know what I'm getting at. Catch y'all in the next video.